Here it is. Session 1 of Fantasy Beast. Now, before I get started, I'm not going to be doing this in the car. I want to get this in an actual sit-down setting, but the way my time constricts with everything, I'm not going to be able to get a video out there actually sitting down and everything like that. I don't know how the sessions are going to go. I don't know how long they're going to be. I don't know exactly what I'm going to talk about and stuff like that. It's all going to be a trial and error kind of thing. But let's just get on with it, okay? A lot of the things we're going to talk about in these sessions are things that some fantasy players already know. Some people are going to be like, well, that's an obvious choice, or like this, obviously that's the smart thing to do here. But there's a lot of people that don't do fantasy football, so I think this will be good for a lot of people, because not a lot of people do fantasy football that I know, and I think they should. So the first things first when it comes to fantasy football, in my opinion, is doing your research. Okay, do your research. And a lot of people say, well, I don't have the time to do my research, and I don't have time to do this or time to do that. Okay, doing research, you don't have to be crazy intricate. You don't have to do your rankings, or you don't have to do anything like that. Just go online and go to NFL.com, ESPN.com. Download the app. Like there's so many apps out there for you to look up for fantasy wise. And everybody take a good half hour to an hour, like a couple days before your draft, or a couple, even if it's a couple hours before, and just map out, what you want to do or how your draft wants to go. And personally, everybody has a half hour to an hour, even a day, to sit there. Everybody has cell phones nowadays, okay? Everyone's on their phone before they go to bed. Everybody has time to look on their phone. So take that time and just go to websites like ESPN and NFL. Even go to the local, nice and easy, or grocery store, and pick up the fantasy newspaper. It's there. It's like $3. It's not bad at all. So do your research, because obviously fantasy football is a free service, but there's always some sort of monetary value that's attached to it. I don't condemn gambling. Obviously, I don't partake in it often, but most of the time, fantasy football is a good amount of money that you're able to win. So do your research. Take the time, because if you're serious about your league and you're serious about the players that you want to draft, take the time and just do it. Personally, I use ESPN, the fantasy app. That's my main fantasy app. There's so many other outlets to use. A lot of people use NFLs. A lot of people use Yahoo. But I personally use ESPN Fantasy. I think it's the best. I think it has the best interface on the phone and the computer, for that matter. And there's tons of info. There's tons of videos to watch. And look up guys like, I think the number one best fantasy guy is Matthew Berry. Matthew Berry has been doing fantasy for so long, and he's so smart when it comes to specific things. You can even look at guys like Michael Fabiano, Matt Money Smith, Cynthia Freeland, who I love. She has a master's in analytics, and they actually have a fantasy. They actually have a segment online on NFL.com/ I think it's NFL Fantasy Live, it's called, and they do it every week. So just watch those videos. They're not long. They're maybe 20 minutes to a half hour long. Just just take the time and get your league right. Know who's injured, know who could be a possible sleeper, know your rookies, know the running backs, have a good knowledge of what the running backs are going to look like, have a good knowledge of what the starting wide receivers are going to look like, and quarterbacks and such like that. It's really simple stuff, but like I said, not a lot of people do it. I've seen so many people fail and lose fantasy leagues because they just didn't take that time. But that's the first thing you have to do. When it comes to drafting in your first round, I don't think no matter what position you pick from, well, let's just say it's a 10-man league, I don't think whatever in the first round, wherever you pick, personally, I would always take a running back, no matter what. Okay? And a lot of people say that a lot of people do take wide receivers in the first round. I personally think that it's better to take a running back because there's so many more running backs, or there's so many more wide receivers than there is running backs. You have to think. When it comes to NFL teams, there's the 32 teams. There's probably 20, maybe 20 decent RB1s, starting running backs. And then when it comes to wide receivers, there's so many wide receivers to choose from that you're able to take them in the second and third round and so on and so forth. But I think the running back in the first round is such a give me. I don't think you definitely should not take a quarterback, a wide receiver, or a tight end in the first round. I don't think that. It's just not smart. It's not smart. If you have the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th pick, you take a running back. You take that best available running back to you because, one, running backs are going to score you the most points because standard leagues, even standard and PPR leagues, your running back is so important. So take a running back. I've seen it so many times where guys would take Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham, Julio Jones, Michael, they'll take those guys in the first round, and then by the time you pick again, depending on what kind of standard league you are, you're going to end up with an RB2 or a running back that you really didn't need. But then there's going to be a good receiver, possibly a stud receiver for you in the second round, but you're forced to take a running back because you have to, because you need a running back. I've seen it where even last year, even in the recent years of fantasy, Antonio Brown was gone number 1 overall, or Julio Jones was gone number 1 overall, and then those guys don't pick. Let's say it's a 10 or 12-man league. You're not picking again for the snake down and the snake up, so you're missing out on all those picks when you could have took a guy like David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, Melvin Gordon, LaShawn McCoy, DeMarco Murray. So on that, if you take a running back like of that caliber on the way up on your second round pick, there might be a couple, your Julio is going to be gone, your Antonio Brown, but when you come back up, those really good wide receivers are going to be there. Your guys like Alshon Jeffrey, Jarvis Landry, Brandon Cooks will definitely be there. Michael Thomas might even fall. Okay, your Julian Edelman's, unfortunately, he just got hurt yesterday. But those kind of caliber guys are going to be on your way up, so it's worth taking. I've seen it so many times. Be smart and do not take a quarterback, tight end, or a receiver in the first round. I mean, if it was up personally to me, I don't take a quarterback, tight end, a defense, or kicker to my last 4 picks. Honestly, I just don't. I stack running backs and wide receivers. More wide receiver if it's a PPR league. So that's pretty much it right there. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is the importance of handcuffing players. Okay, if you're in a draft, pay attention to the handcuffs in your running backs. We've had so many good handcuffed running backs in the recent years, and nobody takes them because the RB2s and the RB3 kind of guys are the flex players. You have guys like Tevin Coleman to back up to Devontae Freeman, who has succeeded so well. You had guys like Giovanni Bernard when it was just him and Jeremy Hill. You had a Mike Gillislee behind LaShawn McCoy, who had a very, very good, decent fantasy year. A Theo Riddick. Even this year, you know what I mean? You have to worry about guys like if Adrian Peterson's gone, you have to take the Mark Ingrams. You have to take the Thomas Rawls and CJ Prosise if Eddie Lacy doesn't end up working out. Focus on players that are suspended, like Ezekiel Elliott, suspended possibly 6 games, won't be back till about week 8. Okay, knowing that Derek McFadden's going to be running the ball for them this year. Just pay attention to stuff like that. It's really, really simple. Okay, there's so many great handcuffs out there. I think handcuffing a guy to have him on your bench is very, very good. I mean, I think I've had Tevin Coleman on my bench for the past 3 years, and I've used him more than some of my starting running backs because that's just how good they are. Because they get those goal line carries and they get the workload. Okay, if let's say Devontae Freeman, he has 90 yards on the day, and it's the second quarter or the third quarter, and they're going to put Tevin Coleman in because they want to give him the reps that he needs and the goal lines. So know your handcuffs. And also stay away from the big names like Adrian Peterson, Eddie Lacy. Stay away from those kind of guys because you don't know who's going to be running the ball. I mean, Mark Ingram was the featured back in New Orleans, and now you have to worry about what Adrian Peterson's going to do. Okay, unless they fall to you very, very late, yes, you can take them. It's okay. And honestly, a good way, and I'm going to end on this for session 1. Honestly, right before you draft, a day or two, print out the most updated fantasy rosters, your top 10s, your top 20s. I always like to pick the top 50 players at each position, and then I pick the top overall. I think I do the top overall 300 players. Okay, it's a good way to keep track of the draft because at the draft, pay attention. Be like, okay, Jordy Nelson's gone. He's crossed off on both of my boards. And then before you go into your draft, there's always times for people to be sitting there and bullshitting around. Star off guys that you think you want. Obviously, don't star off the guys that are complete studs and you know are going to be gone. Take a look at those 5th, 6th, 7th round guys and make a star out of it. Because put a nice little star or an asterisk next to their name so you know that if they fall to you, you know how to take them. Print out the updated fantasy rosters and do mock drafts. ESPN Fantasy does mock drafts all the time, and I literally do a mock draft almost every single day just to see who falls where, and stuff like that. So I want to do Fantasy Beast every Tuesday. I believe I want to do it, and I want to do it, and the next video won't be out until the week before the week 1 season starts out. I might have a little snippet here and there, but this is Fantasy Beast, and I'm really excited for football season.